Welcome to the Midnight Bible Study. No friends, no mother, no father, nobody. Turn to Mary. That's the topic of tonight's Bible study. The king Josiah was parentless at a young age of 8 years old. At 8 years old, he was parentless, and he had witnessed the scenes of outrage and violence, and it was a treacherous existence he had. In fact, he was he was hidden in the priests hid him away in order to keep him alive and let him grow up in a hostile environment. But he was parentless. He was an orphan. He had nobody. He grew up. He came from a grandfather and father who were not good examples for him. He came from a long line of debauched, immoral kings, ruthless kings in Israel. So he really had no example, and he had no parents and he had no guidance. But fortunately, Josiah made God his father. He made God his father, and that was the best thing he ever did, because by doing that, he had the best father you can ever want. What more could you ask for than have God for your father, and for your example, and for your guide and your mentor? That's what Josiah had, and he had that essentially because he was put in that position. Here he was like an orphan, and what do? There was a woman in my church who was an orphan. She had no mother. So what did she do? She turned to Mary and made Mary her mother. And this woman was a wonderful woman in our church. She ran a lot of programs in the church. And she was a wonderful person, absolutely wonderful person, a totally devoted Catholic woman. There was a one of the great heroes of the faith, in my opinion, is the servant of God, Joseph Kentenich. I'm not sure how to pronounce his last name. Father Kentenich. Now he was inspired. Now let me just tell you about Father Kentenich. His mother was put in a terrible position as a young mother who was unable to raise her son. She couldn't raise her son, and I'm sure many mothers have been, young single mothers have been in that sort of situation, which is heart-wrenching. One can only imagine how heart-wrenching and cruel of a circumstance that would be for a young mother, where she couldn't raise her son, and she loved her son, and but she had no choice but to turn him over to the orphanage. So here's what happened. Because she was unable to care for him, before a statue in the orphanage that depicted Our Lady. So she took him to the orphanage, and at the orphanage there's a statue of Our Lady giving the rosary to Saint Dominic and Saint Catherine of Siena, and right there, his mother, this poor young mother who was unable to raise her son, she consecrated him to Mary and begged the Blessed Virgin to educate her son and to be his mother, to be the mother that she couldn't be. This had a profound impact on this young boy. He was 9 years old. Was that 9 years old? And to have this happen, to be left sort of like abandoned by your mother, turned over to your mother, to an orphanage when you're 9 years old, but at the same time the mother clearly loved him and consecrated him to Mary at the foot of this cross of Mary, and not surprisingly, it had a profound effect on Father Kentenich. Obviously, the fact that he became Father Kentenich tells you he became a priest eventually. So it had a profound effect just in that alone. But he was inspired to found the Schoenstatt movement in 1914. Now, this movement is essentially an education movement with a very strong Marian dimension. So it promoted consecration to the Blessed Virgin. So this was it just shows how this had how that being consecrated to Mary like that had a profound effect on him. It was real for him. It absolutely changed his life. And just to give you an example of what a titan of courage and indomitable strength this man became. In 1941, during World War II, Friar Kentenich was arrested by the Gestapo and put into prison. In 1942, due to medical reasons, he was given the opportunity to avoid time in concentration camp, but he made a resolution to offer up his suffering for his movement, the Schoenstatt movement. So this guy could have walked away from Dachau concentration camp, but he said, no thanks, I'd like to offer up my suffering for this movement that promotes the Blessed Virgin, consecration to the Blessed Virgin and Marian teachings. So this was we hear so much about young men these days, these effeminate young men who don't even know they're confused, okay? They're confused and they don't understand what it is to be a man. Well, let's consecrate them to Mary, for heaven's sakes. Look what a lion this man was turned into, because Mary was his mother. By the way, who else was the son of Mary? That would be Jesus, who died on the cross for us, on the cross for us. So should we turn to Mary? Well, why should we do that? There are some who would howl about this. They would howl, and there'd be gnashing and weeping, gnashing of the teeth when I say turn to Mary. But look, Jesus said, well, we're God's children, right? That makes us the brother of Jesus. And if we're the brother of Jesus, then Mary's our mother also. God is our father, Jesus is our brother, Mary is our spiritual mother. So what an incredible blessing. And for those who object to this, then you're also objecting to the Ten Commandments, where it says, honor your mother and your father. We're not worshiping Mary, we're honoring our mother and our father. And it's an incredible blessing. And in a time like this, a time where men don't even know if they're men or not, now is the time to have a real mother whose sons are lions and tigers. God bless you, and good night from the Midnight Bible Study.